How many times have you heard the phrase inside leg to outside rein? Do you understand what inside leg to outside rein means? But secretly, you still have no idea what it feels like? I know I did. Most of us are taught the theory of this connection long before we ever experience it in our horse's body. That usually means we're either trying to make the connection on the outside or we're just ignoring it and hoping we figure it out one day. In this episode, I'm giving you three super simple exercises that help riders feel the connection between the inside leg and the outside aids so the concept finally clicks. Because once you feel it, everything changes. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horse and Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. All right, horse fiends, this is a little bit of a segue from our regularly scheduled programming, but this has been coming up for me the last couple weeks in lessons and clinics, and I just wanted to go with the universe and go with the flow and get it all out while it was fresh in my mind. A lot of times I wait until I have time and then I forget half of what I wanted to say. So I'm going to put this out here now and we'll get back to talking about the seeds of reconnect, rebuild, and ride with heart next week, probably. Before I get into my favorite exercises for feeling the inside hind to outside shoulder connection, or the inside leg to outside rein, however you phrase it, I want you to picture in your mind for a minute this carnival or amusement ride that spins around really, really fast, and then you stick to the sides, you stick to the walls, and the floor drops out. I feel like our local one was called the Gravitron, and I'm not even sure that they're still a thing, but this was like back in the 90s, all the rage. And people would get really skilled with doing funny things on the wall and being in funny positions because you'd be stuck there as long as the ride was spinning at a high rate of speed. Then, as it would slow down, you would come off of the wall. But while it was still rotating, just not as fast, even if you lost the effect of zero gravity, you'd still have sort of this slow moving feeling, right? Like your limbs were still heavy. So that is, for whatever reason, one of the things that finally clicked in my brain talking about the inside hind leg of the horse to the outside shoulder, or from the rider's inside leg to the outside rein. Our inside leg needs to motivate the inside hind leg of the horse enough to have the potential energy we need to do the things we want to do. And you can start that concept really early in a horse's training. You don't have to wait until you're working on collection or things like that. I started with young horses right off the bat because when you use the exercises that I'm going to show you, a very basic hindquarter yield, you can use that to speed up, to slow down for so many things, and you can refine it to the point where it just becomes your super simple, buttery feeling half halt. A lot of times we are making concepts too difficult, in my opinion, too difficult in writing when they're really simple. So keep that image of the Gravitron or whatever you called it in your town in your mind because the rotor in the middle is your inside leg. That's creating all of that potential energy. The walls of the ride would be your outside aids, and they're containing it and directing it. So if you didn't have a round wall or the wall got a hole in it, you would just sort of fly off. Or if the rotor broke and it wasn't spinning as fast, you'd just kind of be wobbling around there. That is often what happens to riders with their inside rein or inside leg. Such a hard thing to say too, an inside leg to outside rein connection. I saw this cute reel on Instagram not long ago, two people walking together in the indoor arena, and the inside person pulls the outside person by their jacket to direct them around. Not supposed to mimic pulling on the inside rein. Then they switched, and the person on the inside wrapped their arm around the person on the outside and directed them around. Seems like a much nicer way of going, and that was the point. But imagine if somebody that you didn't know came up to you and put their arm around you and tried to direct you around. What would happen? You know, you'd be trying to get away. And sadly, that's how most of our horses feel a lot of the time. They're like, I don't know you like that. I don't know what you're trying to show me, tell me, etc. So we need to show them and tell them, and then allow them to see that we have the feeling to know what's happening and we can direct them when we need to. Otherwise, you're going to end up with this kind of wishy-washy, icky connection that you feel like you're always managing. And I really want to help you fix that. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, you may want to run on over to YouTube and watch the video because I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to talk you through them so you'll hear it, but if you want to see the example, head on over to YouTube. I can still remember the moment when I really felt the outside rein connection working. It was just so clear. And it was not when I was first learning dressage. It was many years in. And I never felt that when I was growing up riding hunters. Wasn't really even something that we talked about. I was probably showing third level. I was having a lesson with Major Jeremy Beal and working on some schooling pirouettes. And I don't know why, but finally I felt the concept working and I was like, ah, light bulbs. Oh, this is it. This is why this works. And this is why my brain thinks it doesn't work. But now that it feels it, my brain's like, oh, I get it. At this point, I had competed at the lower levels of dressage. I had evented. I had lived in Germany and trained there for 2 years. I had ridden everything from schoolmasters to young horses, and nobody was ever able to create this feeling for me before. So once I figured it out, I was like, I need to figure out how people can understand this earlier in their education. rather than floundering around for so many years before they finally figure it out. And it just so happened that around the same time I was delving into the horsemanship world. And I had some really great natural horsemanship mentors. And they were always saying how this one exercise is just a building block, right? It just builds up to so many other things. And once I realized what the end game was, I was like, oh, I get it. A lot of times in writing, in teaching, especially when you're talking about discipline specific, we tend to teach skills as a standalone thing or a movement. We hear many, many times that the advanced movements or advanced techniques are just the basics done really well. But then we get taught things as like they are a thing and they aren't a combination of things. I'm guilty of this too, because sometimes we assume as instructors that people know what a basic thing is, and sometimes so often we forget what the very basic part of it is. So this is one of those exercises that is super basic, super easy to start, and can take you all the way from teaching your horse how to move their hind end independently to speeding up and slowing down to doing canter pirouettes and to having this absolutely beautiful, imperceptible half halt that you want to have. Just this one little thing. And it's often overlooked. I'm going to teach you it in a couple different ways. These are my three basic exercises for showing people how to feel the inside hind leg to the outside shoulder or the inside leg to outside ring connection. It's a simple hindquarter yield. It got a bad rap in the natural horsemanship world several years ago. Maybe it still does. I don't know. There are a lot of videos running around the internet of people just not doing it correctly and overusing it. It's not something that you need to overuse. It's not something that you need to do a ridiculous amount of. It can be taught very simply, very easily. And you know me, I like my rule of threes. Try it 3 times. Is it working? Is it getting better? If not, change something. If it is, go do something else. Come back to it later. We don't need to drill things. And the trick with learning this is that you don't just learn how to get your horse to yield the hindquarters. You now have a building block that you're going to build other skills on. And it's very important that you continuously refine the skill. You continuously make it better. You continuously make it easier and easier to do. You're going to use your energy ladder, which we talked about a few episodes ago. Now you're just using it to teach a specific skill instead of your basic up or down transition. You're still going to use the lightest aid you could imagine for asking your horse to yield their hindquarters is going to be your first rung of your ladder. For me, it's just thinking about yield left, turn left. I'm thinking, I just want to kind of be able to move my hip, move my inside shoulder a bit back, and say, can you turn? That's it. So then I build from there. If this horse doesn't know what I want, they're probably not going to do anything, right? So then my next step would be probably bringing my inside leg a little back. Then maybe if I still don't hear the horse thinking, I'm gonna squeeze a little bit with that leg or a little tap, tap, tap. We don't want to squeeze because that's gonna make the horse go, We want to kind of brush their side and then maybe say tap, 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 rather than squeeze it where they're like, oh, God. The squeeze tends to get them to push against you rather than move away from you, which is what you want. So a little brush of the leg, maybe a little tap, tap, tap. At that point, your horse might start to move forward because they're like, oh, you're using your leg. You want to go forward. In this case, you don't really want them to take a step forward. You want them to take a step over with their inside hind leg. So lift your inside rein, your left rein in this case. You lift it straight up, not pulling it back, not going out to the side. You lift it straight up. Kind of think about dipping that shoulder a little bit. The horse will scoot their hind end under, step out with the outside hind, and then you release the pressure. Now, if your horse is really dull to the aids or maybe just very much an energy conservationist, you could use a stick on their hind end or on the inside hind, right behind your leg, wherever you feel like it's most effective, and just tap, tap, tap until they get the idea to move. We don't need to whack on anybody, right? We don't need to use really strong aids. The point here is to teach very light aids. As we're using the energy ladder as the basis for this, you want to use very precise steps. 4 precise steps. Then, as your horse learns those steps, you can shorten the duration between the steps because in the beginning you have to give them a time to understand each step so that they know what's expected. Once they understand it, you can shorten the length of time that you're in those steps. You can also start to remove steps. For example, on a horse that I know knows this game with me, I might get on and say, hey, when I do this, what do you do? And if they don't do anything, then I'm going to be like, well, how about I tap, tap, tap your little hiney over until you step over? Now, if I go, what do you do? And they're like, what do you want me to do? Then I'm like, yay, thank you for asking the question, right? So I get to choose what my response is from the horse. I always want to have a high expectation, but I can reward the slightest try. In that case, that horse tried. That horse was like, yes, what are you thinking today? I want to reward that. I want to reward that horse asking me a question. The other thing that is very easy to mess up in any of these exercises is asking for too much. And that's why the hindquarter yield itself got a bad rap because people were doing way too many steps and asking for way too much. All you need is one, even a half a step, even a dip of a hip, if that's all your horse offers at first. You just need to see them try. And then you can reward that try, and then you can expect a little more next time. Try it 3 times. Does your horse get better each time? Do they ask the question quicker? Do they try quicker? Or do they not do anything? If they don't do anything, then change up your aids. Try something else. Like experiment. What might work? What usually gets my horse motivated? If they are getting better, then go off and do something else. Come back to it later. We don't need to drill it. We just need to get them thinking about doing this. Okay, I want to show you a little bit of a video of a horse doing this in the beginning. I want you to see how I start to play with it and make it easy for this horse. Can I get him with very little effort, right, to move that hind end? Because that's what I want him to do in collection, right? I want him to get the inside hind under, drop that hip a little bit, and collect. So that's hard for him, right? It's still hard for him as a horse who has done third level dressage, right? So this is something for me that I would spend quite a bit of time on, at least several days a week, until I felt like he really got the idea that I want the butt to come under. Okay, so that's a horse that has had quite a bit of training, but had never, to my knowledge, been taught this simple exercise before. So we worked on teaching it to him. Well, you don't have to make it hard. You don't have to do a lot of it. You don't have to expect your horse to spin around like a top. Simply gets the inside hind to cross over. You'll see later in some of our other videos how that helps you start to feel the outside shoulder. You really want to make this fun and don't overdo it. Remember, once they start to learn it, refine your phases. Tighten up those rungs on your ladder or leave some out. You want to get it to the point where when you go, can you? Your horse goes, do what? And may seem like that is not possible, but trust me, it is possible. Expect a lot, reward a little. So exercise number 2 is going to be riding off the inside aids. It's really helpful if your horse already knows the hindquarter yield before you start doing this. Now you are just taking the hindquarter yield in motion. And for me, the easiest way to start this is like on a figure 8 pattern or a bow tie pattern. I love adding it to serpentines, but that's a little bit more advanced. It can be confusing for people at first. So give yourself a setup where you've got a cone, barrel, dressage letters, or you could simply draw a circle in your arena. You just want to give yourself 2 visual points to ride around. Keep them a good distance apart to start. Don't make them too close together. I'd say at least 10 meters. 20 is fine. They don't have to be close together. You're going to ride a turn around your first marker, just like you did your hindquarter yield. So you could even start at the halt. Halt at your marker and set yourself up so that when you ask for that hindquarter yield and they take a step over, you're going to be facing where you want to go to your next marker. Set yourself up for success. And as soon as they take that step over, you just allow them to walk straight to the next marker. Then you can do the same thing. If your horse is still having a hard time with the hindquarter yield, then you might want to halt at the next marker. Make the turn through the hindquarter yield until you're headed straight to the next marker again. If you feel like it's going pretty well, use your inside aids to make that turn around the marker. Now, if the horse slows down, you need more inside leg, probably no inside reins. If the horse goes wide, you probably need a little more inside rein, but you may also need more inside leg. Because here's what happens. The horses go wide because the inside hind leg is not pushing fast enough. That rotor on the Gravitron is turning slow. It's getting kind of wobbly and you're not really stuck to the wall, but you don't really have normal gravity back again. So, the first thing you want to do, you ride it just like your hindquarter yield. The first thing you do is you use your seat, then you use your leg, then you use your inside rein if you need it. Then you ride straight ahead to the next marker. And you do the same thing in the opposite direction. You're going to find one direction is easier than the other. Normally, I don't really like to use the term easier because normally what you're going to find is that one direction, they make the circle a lot smaller, and one direction, they make it bigger. Perfect. That's exactly what I want you to feel. I want you to feel, how are you going to mitigate that? How are you going to stop that from happening without using your outside reins to compensate or your outside aids No outside aids to compensate. Figure out how to fix your problem with your inside reins. And your leg in your seat first. Your inside rein is your last line of defense. And that's usually when you've finally got the inside hind leg coming fast enough, and now you need to slow the shoulders down. You can use that inside rein. Don't make this too difficult. It's a simple figure eight pattern. So you start at the one cone, go right, to the next cone, and go left. Very simple exercise. And it doesn't matter what markers you use to set this up. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Now we're going to see a rider riding this pattern we set up using some dressage letters. And I have just suggested to her that she start to use only her inside aids because you'll see how she likes to compensate with her outside aids. That's getting in the way of her getting the right feel. So I suggest to her that she just uses the inside aids. She's not quite there yet, but it's a great example of what's going to happen as you learn to do this. Here is the bow tie pattern or the figure eight pattern. And with this rider, I had just begun to suggest that maybe she try it riding off only her inside aids. And you can see where she's occasionally getting her outside aids mixed in there. That's totally normal. I would love to see her get really proficient at just doing this off the inside rein, inside leg. I should say off her seat and then her inside leg and inside rein. And of course the inside aids change every time you change direction. And you see her going wide around that letter H in that right turn. And that's because the right hind is not coming around quick enough. And so her habit is to pull the inside rein to make the turn happen, but then try to block the outside aids or try to block the outside shoulder with the outside aids instead of driving that inside hind around faster, which would whip the hind end around. So you can ride that bow tie pattern in the walk, in the trot, in the canter. You can start it from the halt. You can walk it, halt when you get to the markers, and then go around, walk on. Once you're comfortable doing that, you can trot, walk when you feel like you need to walk if you need to make your turns. And then when your horse gets really good at it, you'll be able to do them from a trot. Same thing with the canter. Start it with simple changes, and then eventually you can do it with flying changes. That is a super simple exercise that builds into big things like flying changes and canter pirouettes. Important things to remember that you really want your horse to be able to whoosh around that cone or letter at any speed by you doing that. Okay? Can you turn? And your horse goes, yes, I can. You have to be self-disciplined enough to refine your aids at every speed and in every ride to make that possible. If you're sloppy about it, your horse is going to be sloppy about it. And it's not their fault. It's your job to show them what you want. Your goal is to not have to touch your reins at all during this exercise. So that lifting the inside rein is the absolute last thing that you want to do, besides messing with the outside rein, because that's not even supposed to be a part of it. A lot of you will want to do that, though, because you'll want to fill up the space when it's not there, and you'll want to stop the outside shoulder when it goes too far. Learn to feel when that's happening so you can correct it the right way. You're not going to master this exercise in a day. It's best done in short stints frequently. Again, try it 3 times. If it gets better, great. Take a break, go do something else. If it's not, change something. Try it 3 more times. Then take a break. If it's not getting better, take a break, think about it, experiment with refining your hindquarter yield. Don't just drill this, drill this, drill this. Challenge yourself to get the idea quickly and give it to your horse. Don't expect your horse to be a mind reader until your mind knows what it's doing. Then you can certainly refine your aids enough and teach your horse to read your mind. Remember, the goal is not to touch your reins. It's to ride off your seat. I like to just be able to look at that next marker and go to it, right? When you get good at the exercise, you can do it at the trot, you can do it in a canter. My pro tip is that when you increase the speed, do it coming out of the turn to start and slow down coming into the turn. You've also heard that you can never do too many transitions. There's another way to add some in. Then, when you ride it, speed up coming out of the turn, slow down coming into the turn. Eventually, your horse is going to build themselves in a half halt. Then, if you need to drive the inside hind a little bit more, you can. And they'll actually keep themselves from plowing around the turn because they already know, oh, we're planning on stopping. Oh, but we're not stopping this time. You're going to ask me to keep going, and I'm going to have to work that inside hind leg. Yes. And if they lose it coming around the turn like that, that's fine. Make another transition. Slow it down. Speed it up again when you come out of the turn after the next marker. This exercise is really about you training your brain to drive the inside hind, to feel when the outside shoulder comes over and the outside hind leg, and to train that brain that you do not need to pull on your reins to control anything. Exercise 3 is all about setting up your half halt. Now, of course, if you ride that figure 8 bow tie pattern correctly with transitions, your horse has already learned to half halt themselves a little bit. But this is going to be for when you want that little extra ask, right? What I do is hindquarter yield, transition it into a backup. The idea is that when you feel the outside hind step over and the weight come into the outside shoulder, you then ask for the horse to step back. It takes some practice and it takes some feel. That is the point in these exercises, is for you to slow down and learn the feel. Here we have a pretty nice hindquarter yield into the backup. And you can see right there where the shoulder, the outside shoulder starts to come out into the outside rein. And that is actually the perfect place to ask for that backup. Now, this pair's just starting that, so she missed that feeling. But then a couple steps later, she did get the backup, and that's perfect. And one of the most common mistakes once you start to get that backup is that people will ask for more than you need. And we see right there, she only got one step. And then you can either go forward or you could just ask again. Either way, you need to release the pressure, but you don't necessarily need to go forward again. And then from this view, it's just a better view of the back, and the rider gets the ask for the backup a little bit quicker because she feels the outside shoulder come into the outside rein, and then she uses that outside rein to rock him back. And it's a very nice effort. So again, we don't want to ask for too many steps. We're happy with that, and we go on. Some of the biggest mistakes in that exercise are asking for too many steps backwards, and then also doing the thing where you pull back with both reins and lean forward to back up. Your horse is going to pull into your reins. Your weight's going to be over their shoulders, and then your knees are probably squeezing them in their ribs and behind their shoulders. So they're definitely not going to want to back up into that feeling. Keep your seat in basically the same place. I like to think about kind of rocking my pelvis back a little bit, rocking that outside seat bone a little bit back as I also rock the outside rein back. If I'm going left and I bring it into the right. If you feel a bunch of resistance pushing into you from your horse, play with your position. Maybe play with this on the ground so that they can get the feeling of the backup better. Depending on how horses have been taught to back up, they may just be stuck and have a negative feeling about it. You train that before you work on this. Unless you're really good at it, then you might be able to change their mind while you're doing it. But remember to reward that try, even if it's a rock back. You don't have to get 72 steps backward. You don't have to get 2 steps backwards. It can be them shifting their weight. You reward that. And then next time you can expect them to go back 1 step. Reward the try. Enjoy the process. Thank your horse for putting up with your shenanigans. Anytime you feel that they try for you like that, thank them. And that requires you to be self-disciplined enough that your mind is open and that you're aware. You're not just focused on a result. It's a hard thing for us in the way we traditionally learn to ride and how our traditional riding lessons go. When you throw in these little exercises that you can practice a little bit here and a little bit there, you can really use these exercises to improve your feel and understand what you want the body parts to do, then that will come easier and easier when you're in motion. I would absolutely love to know how these exercises go for you. So, of course, your 10-minute experiment for this week is to start with a hindquarter. Unless you already know how to do a hindquarter yield, then you can pick one of the other two. But if you've never trained your horse how to do the proper hindquarter yield before, that's your 10-minute experiment. You're going to do that. And then I want you to let me know how it goes. You can leave a comment in some of your podcast apps, or you can use the rate feature, or you can jump on social media, or you can send me an email. You can come over to the school community, and some of these videos are going to be there. I will also put the videos themselves on YouTube, so you don't have to watch the episode every time you want to get the example of the videos. Comment there. Let me know how do these exercises go for you so we can start building even bigger, better things from them. Happy experimenting. All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!